start.
Good evening. Welcome to the League of Women Voters and the East Bay Media's forum for the 4 candidates for mayor for East Providence. Democracy depends on educated voters, and the purpose of this forum is for candidates to answer questions on issues important to East Providence, so you can make an informed choice when you vote on September 13th. This forum is one of a series. We will be having 3 more forums for the general election when that comes up in November. Democracy depends on educated voters. Well, I think I said that. My name is Susan Esherick, and I represent the League of Women Voters, along with our wildcard tracker, Linda Poole, and our timers, Joanne DeBow and Tom Padua. The League of Women Voters has been holding candidates forums at local, state, and national levels since women got the vote in 1920. The League never supports or opposes candidates, but we do advocate for issues. And we feel strongly, and we invite you to learn more about us by visiting our website at www.LWVRI.org, where you can also find a recording of this and our other forums that we have been recording this fall. Tonight, Scott will be asking questions which have been submitted by you, the public, the campaigns, and League members, which address issues that are important to these constituencies. Questions may be combined or paraphrased at the moderator's discretion. Each candidate will have the same amount of time to speak. Each gets an opening and closing statement and will be asked an equal number of questions, and will get 4 additional wildcards of 30 seconds each that they can use to add to their statements. Timers and recorders will alert the candidates of their time remaining and to ensure that each gets equal time. And now I turn the program over to our moderator, Scott Pickman.
Thank you, Susan. Welcome everyone to tonight's program. Familiar format for those of you who've watched these before. I'm going to steer the candidates through the evening opening and closing statements and question and answer. And just for the new audience watching, I like to set the room. So we are together in person in a room at the East Providence Public Library, at the Weaver Library. We're using a piece of equipment provided by the library called the OWL, where we are all here together. The camera traces our voices and finds us. So we don't have a live audience here. It's just a small setting with us and the League volunteers and you watching at home. So we're going to get started. We determined the order ahead of time for opening statements. We turned to our first candidate, Rory Miller. The floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much. Hello, my name is Rory Miller. I'm happy to introduce myself as a candidate for mayor of East Providence. Before I proceed, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event tonight. Democracy without insight is no democracy at all. I'm often asked why I'm seeking this office. My inspiration comes from a quote, "If not us, who? If not now, when?" East Providence is at a crossroads. Change abounds around our community. How we answer that call to change will shape us for generations. Inaction on the part of our city is inexcusable. We are not passive players in a winner-take-all game. The core of our community is under siege by rising housing costs, energy, transportation, and food. We are an exceptional people with an opportunity to respond to these crises in a way that will empower our citizens to participate in our growth and not be left behind. The time for experienced leadership is now, and I look forward to leading East Providence forward together. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Roberto DaSilva.
Good evening. My name is Bob DaSilva, and I am honored to be the first elected mayor in the city of East Providence. Thank you to the sponsors for hosting this forum, as it is vitally important that the residents hear and learn what each candidate's vision is for the city and what leadership they actually possess to lead this incredible city. During the last 3.5 years, we've been faced with some challenges that we've dealt with very effectively. We had to implement a change of government from a manager to a mayor form of government. We had to deal with a worldwide pandemic where we took care of our most vulnerable residents by providing food, testing, and vaccines. All while this was happening during the pandemic, you saw unprecedented growth in both small and large businesses moving into the city, manufacturing moving into the city. We saw housing development like we've never seen before, with over 1,200 units currently being constructed here for the residents of East Providence. And I think when you look at our track record and what we've accomplished in that short period of time, I hope that the residents will realize that they've chosen the right person to be the first mayor of the city of East Providence, and that I deserve a second term. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have John Rossi.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Rossi, and I'm your candidate to become the next mayor of East Providence. At the core of my campaign lies my unshakable belief that our city leaders, especially the mayor, must have respect for every resident of East Providence. The mayor must be open, honest, and transparent with our citizens. Without the trust that comes with truthful communications, it is impossible for us to come together as a city to tackle our greatest challenges. It should not be necessary to file open records requests to discover the basic facts on how tax dollars are being spent. We can do better, and we will do better. I am ready to implement changes to our city government so that it works better for all of us. I am running for mayor because I believe East Providence deserves a mayor we can trust to work on behalf of all the people and not just the wealthy and well-connected. And I'd like to thank the league and all the candidates here tonight for hosting this event.
Thank you. Finally, we have Maureen Gomes Lopez.
Thank you very much for sponsoring this debate. I think it's going to be a debate that people will look and realize who should be the next mayor of East Providence. My name is Maureen Gomes Lopez. I'm running for mayor of East Providence because we desperately need new leadership. My history of proven qualifications for 23 years as an executive manager, organizational and crisis manager in public and private sector make me the only candidate ready to bring our city forward. My executive positions that I've held was at the UMass Dartmouth, the American Federation of County and Municipal Employee Union. I also worked for Johnson & Johnson, the Fortune 500 company, and I founded the first battered woman shelter in this area. And I received numerous awards for all the positions that I've had. The residents that I have spoke to as I walk the block say to me, loud and clear, we need someone we can trust. We no longer trust city government. Residents want leaders that has no ties to an old guard that has been running the city for years. They want a mayor that has respect for residents and have the city's best interest in mind. They want to know just how much funding we have, and we want to make sure that we get all the state funding that we need. I want an independent audit for the city. If I am elected mayor, I will give you straight talk, quick action. I will create a family first program that will help families with childcare, access for affordable housing, whether renting or ownerships. Our senior residents have expressed their fears of selling their homes that they cannot afford now, and they feel they have no place to go. So when we think of building, we have to include our senior citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, those are our opening statements. We're going to move to questions now. We'll come back to the beginning, start with Mr. Miller. First question, as I said, we usually start with an easy one. What would your priorities be if elected?
So my priorities are start with my focus, and my focus is increasing the financial stability of our city, particularly the individuals in our city. Throughout the city, there are households that are in tremendous financial duress, particularly due to the housing crisis, and further crippled by the rising costs of energy and transportation. The city has a tremendous ability to influence those through regulatory policy, land use policy. And I think that the city needs to start taking a proactive role in shifting the institutions that modifying the institutions to better handle these challenges that are faced by individuals. We frequently play a passive role in how we react to things. We wait for the solutions to come to us. We respond to them in kind, and that unfortunately is not going to lead to things that are grown organically. It's going to lead to basically people taking resources from us and trying to see how can we maximize the opportunities to help East Providence, but also help ourselves in the process.
Mr. DaSilva, same question.
We've done so much in a short period of time to bring accountability, transparent, open government. We instituted an open gov platform that puts our complete budget online, so anyone can see what's in the budget. We want to continue that level of transparency and that level of growth in our community. We are in the early stages of building and planning the building of a community center for our residents. Twice in the past, our community voted to build the community center, and prior administrations cast that aside. We have moved the needle on that quite a bit. We've got a congressional directed spending earmark of about $3 million coming in. We're working with Governor McKee to secure more state funding, and we believe that under our leadership, we'll be able to build a community center here for our community. But most importantly, we'll continue the positive growth, the open government, the transparent government that we've fostered over the last 3.5 years. And everything is out there to be looked at. We have an independent audit that happens every year that the council actually hires and pays for. So thank you.
Mr. Rossi.
Priorities for me would be water infrastructure, working on our roads, and to really do away with the speed cameras. They are a tax that has no consequence. The mayor's using that money, $3 million in this proposed budget, to plug holes. If he didn't have the $3 million projected revenue to actually plug the budget, then he'd have to actually be faced with a choice of actually taking a hard look at the budget. And because he can get away with this, because the projected revenue from the speed cameras enables him to not have almost a 4% tax increase. That's one of my priorities. Water infrastructure is a big, big priority. For the people who've contacted me and were kind enough to point out that I'm an old white guy, just think about the how I would look buried under the Providence River like our water lines are.
Ms. Lopez.
Thank you. Affordable housing is very important. That should be our priority. We have families making $70,000 a year and they can't afford taxes and what they're paying in utilities, water bills, electric bills. We have to consider not only our families, our young families here in their crisis. We have to think about how do we bring more families into East Providence. It's very important that we do. Our school systems, I'm worried about our school systems. Before school care, after care, summer programs. We must have that for our family or we're going to lose it. I've been on the road for 7 months meeting with all the wards, and they're telling me we don't want to leave, but we're going to have to leave. And the seniors, desperate for help. We have seniors in their homes that they're going to have to sell, but they have nowhere to go. We have to add them to the housing situation. I believe we have to work on the water systems. We have corroded water systems. We have to worry about the level of materials we're putting in there. When I was chief of personnel, I had someone tell me, we're not putting the right chemicals in the water system. I went to the mayor and said, we have a problem. And he had other things on his mind. When I resigned, that's when he sent a notice out and everybody got a notice that, you know, we're going to switch over to another water system. I worry about the roads and the infrastructure. We're doing that now because it's election time. We should have a plan every year, 6 months to a year, on what we're going to do on a regular basis to control our roads and our infrastructure. Cameras, I agree. That was a money grabber. From what I can see, we're paying thousands of dollars a month. We have cameras that, speed cameras, that's costing us $2,500 a month. We have speeding that's costing us $18,000 a month.
So I'm gonna interrupt, just because one of my questions tonight is on the speed cameras. So, and I know you probably want to respond to it and you're talking about it. So we'll leave her at 4 wildcards used. I'm going to ask a question of the speed camera, so anyone who wants to go deeper on that can, but if you'd like to respond, Mr. DaSilva, please do.
I'd like to respond on water infrastructure. And for the first time in 65 years, our administration has inspected the water line. We found some leaks in the main line that comes from Budlong Road in Cranston all the way to East Providence. That's the first time in 65 years. We're working on making repairs to our sewer system that hasn't been looked at. We have a vitrified clay sewer system that is collapsing. And we led the way with Bristol County Water Authority to connect a second source of water with Bristol County Water Authority that had been sidelined by previous administrations. And we're going to be connecting to Pawtucket as a true second source of water. We don't want to end up like some of these other states without water, without potable water for their residents. So we're working on that. And it's something our administration has led the way on. So I appreciate that issue being brought up. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Miller.
I just want to touch upon the word transparency, because I think impact within the word transparency is also an assumption of morality. And I think that's a false assumption in this case. When we look at who is funding our current mayor's campaign, we see that 77% of his campaign funds are coming from out of the community of East Providence. And we also see that a large portion of them are coming from waterfront developers. I think there's a lot of danger in just reading headlines and not digging deeper and seeing what is actually being transparently provided to us. And we might find that it's alarming. And I would urge anyone to go on and look at who is funding our mayor's campaign.
It's transparent because it's on the Board of Elections. Anyone can look at it. I'm not hiding anything. It's totally transparent. And you know what? When businesses know that they're dealing with consistent, ethical government, they want to maintain that consistency and they want to support that government. So I have no fault with who my supporters are. I appreciate their support, and it's totally out there for anyone to look at. Thank you.
I think when businesses see a profit-making opportunity and a position to take advantage of, they're going to seize upon it. They see these as investments in our city, investments they can take advantage of because they see weak leadership. I would do the same thing. I would invest in a place where I see I could manipulate opportunities that were not accessible to everyone. That's a pretty weak position we put ourselves in. Something we have to turn around quickly with experienced leadership that understands how to negotiate with experienced investors. Unfortunately, we don't have those people in positions of leadership today.
Okay, so we're on our first question. We're all charging out of the gate and we're taking shots at the mayor, which is fine in this forum, but you know, we had a whole series of questions to go and a whole lot of time left in it. But anyone wants to jump back in, and I'm not turning you off. I'm just saying, you know, pace yourself because we've got a long way to go. But anyone else? Okay. All right. As I said, we got 5 more questions, closing statements. We've got a lot of time. All right. Next question, Mr. DaSilva, begins with you. What is your position on the newly installed red light and speed camera systems?
Those speed cameras are a safety measure that was brought to us through the community wanting something to happen with all the speeding. And the council asked us to look into traffic calming measures. And the council supported us looking at speed cameras, and we did, and we thought it was a good program. Now let's be realistic here. There's a revenue side that comes with it. 82% of those revenue fines are from outside drivers blowing through our school districts. You need to be driving 11 miles over the speed limit. The cameras are only on during school hours from 7 to 4. So the reality is, yes, that $3 million, that's taxpayer dollars that I don't have to come to the homeowners to say, hey, we need to get that from you. That's coming in from the people who choose to disobey our simple speed limits at the school zone. So yes, and by the way, 72% of that revenue comes to the city. It doesn't go to the vendor. 72% of the revenue collected comes to the city.
Mr. Rossi, same question.
Could you repeat the question, please, Scott?
What is your position on the newly installed red light and speeding camera systems?
I'm a big believer in actually calling them what they are, right? Under the guise of safety measures, speed calming measures, these cameras were installed with one traffic study done at the Kent Heights School. It showed an average speed of 36 miles an hour. I'd like to also point out an inaccuracy in what the mayor just said, is that the speed cameras are all set at 11 miles an hour. Doesn't explain to me how people I know have gotten tickets for 6 miles over the speed limit, including the reporter that he called today to point out a misquote that I had in the journal. And she said, you know, you're right. I got a speeding ticket for 6 miles over. So there's a litany of evidence that people got 6 miles over. So call it what it is. And if it's really about safety, why is he cutting 5 positions from the actual crossing guards for all of these schools? Call it what it is. That's all I'm saying. If you think it eases your ability to tax people without any kind of repercussion, call it what it is.
Ms. Lopez.
I agree with my candidate here, one of the candidates. He's absolutely right, and I think we're on the same vein here. I read the 17 pages of the camera contract. I know how to negotiate. What you look for is what's not in there. What's not in there is our right to change the camera system or just get rid of the camera system. We have to pay. We can get rid of it. We could say, okay, turn this one off, that one off. We can do that, but we're still paying for 5 years. That's a heck of a lot of money that we are wasting. We have police officers. To me, a police officer standing in a school zone, people stop. Okay, the signs, from what I'm hearing from my constituents, that the signs are confusing. You get 20 miles an hour, half a mile later, you've got 35 miles an hour. We need to seriously think of alternatives rather than the camera system.
Mr. Miller, first.
So I am all for real safety on our roads, but unfortunately, the measures that are being taken through the traffic cameras do not result in real safety. The studies by the company that actually we purchased the cameras from, reports 15 to 50% reduction in speeding by virtue of this cameras. It's actually how they make their money is by allowing people to continue to speed. Otherwise, they lose their revenue source. It's baked into their business model is that it's not an effective reducer of speed limit. What does effectively reduce speeding is traffic calming measures. Traffic calming measures are part and parcel of the Green and Complete Streets Ordinance. This is something that's been passed in Newport, Central Falls, and Providence. And these are effective measures that will not tax our short-staffed police department further. They will actually result in greener and safer streets for our community. I think we need to look at what is the action we're trying to achieve as opposed to just playing to the audience. And unfortunately, I think these traffic cameras play to the audience. You know, when we're looking, we can't look at these as creating economic growth. We need to, through penalizing people, we need to create real economic growth.
Mr. DaSilva.
The reality is you have to be driving 11 miles over the speed limit to receive a moving violation. While we had the cameras off during the summer break, we had a pedestrian struck in front of Kent Heights, and we had a vehicle go off the road and strike a pole on the side of the road. We used these cameras in conjunction with those signs that Councilman Brittle brought to my attention, those speed signs that we put throughout neighborhoods. People don't know if they're going to get a ticket or not with those. So those actually are effective at getting people to slow down because they know that we employ the actual speed safety cameras in the community. So people actually slow down and you see it in action.
Mr. Rossi.
So once again, it's inaccurate to say that the click speed is, the trigger speed is set at 11 miles an hour. It may be now because the cameras can be manipulated to do that and it's election time. But I know for a fact, I was told by the former chief of police that his suggestion was 11 miles an hour, which is quite faster than 6 miles an hour. But it was set at 6 miles an hour. So that's the fact of the matter.
Ms.
We need
Lopez.
to deal with the truth about the camera system. What I want to know is, where is the money going?
We're not going to have a
Okay,
dialogue.
But I think people that I've talked to want to know where the money's going. So that's one of my main questions. I believe that we should look for alternatives, as I said before. And residents want. They want a change in the camera system.
Not to belabor the point, but I'm going to belabor the point one more time. If this was really about student safety and pedestrian safety, then that would be indicative if the signs that Mr. DaSilva has says is out and about in communities, why aren't they before the speed zones? The reason they're not out before the speed zones, because most of the times it's inattentive drivers, not intentionally speeding, but it would reduce revenue. So what is it about? Student safety, pedestrian safety, or revenue generation?
Okay. 2 questions now. We're going to move to a new one. Mr. Rossi, we begin with you. We now have experience with the mayoral form of government. How do you think it is working out? Are there any changes in the structure that you would implement?
We do have experience with the mayoral form of government. A couple of suggestions that I would have is that we really need a true separation of powers, that there are three branches of government, but really two branches of government. The legislative branch by the council. I think one of the things that needs to be done is that the council has their own city solicitor. You can't serve two masters. The solicitor now serves Mayor DaSilva. The other thing is some budgetary changes. He has the ability within a particular city budget to move up to $300,000 around without council approval. Seems like that's what he did to build a new, refurbish the fire station with the new dispatch center. No approval, just done. No RFPs, that at least we're public. So, and that's some of the changes I would definitely be looking at.
Ms.
Can you
Lopez.
repeat the question?
Yes. We now have experience with the new mayoral form of government. How do you think it is working out? Are there any changes you would implement to the structure of the government?
I think we voted in 2018 to make this change. Mayor, council form of government, separate powers. I don't think it's working with this particular mayor. My opinion and what I would do is make sure that we are separate. Right now we have people who are grouping and right now they're working their campaign to make sure that those people get on the council. This is wrong. They're circumventing the charter. I'm very concerned about that. So what I would do is make sure that that doesn't happen.
Mr. Miller.
In the mayoral form of government, I do think it is a superior form of government over the council form. It allows us to act more expediently, and the mayor can really set the agenda, set the tone for the city, make us decide what our priorities will be. And that's actually a very important thing, setting the priorities before the council. I do think there's risk, and the truth be told, I think we could actually do a hell of a lot worse than our current mayor. I think he's done a perfectly acceptable job. And there should be concern for how that amount of power in one person's hand could have a tremendously detrimental impact on the city. You know, the things that I see where you can go sideways is the inclination that we seem to have throughout the city for anecdotal decision making, lack of real deliberative action when we're making things. We refer to a couple people who've had one or two experiences, and then we make dramatic shifts in the structure of our government because of those one or two folks that are slighted in one way or another. Finally, I want to talk about how we used to have a number of very active boards in the city. One of them was the housing board. It was laid to rest by the last council because they said it was a hindrance to them being able to move. We need to reactivate these boards and engage them in the decision-making process.
Mr. DaSilva.
I think it works because of accountability. You know, I'm accountable to the people and you're able to get things done. One of the issues that I heard from the department heads right away is they can't believe how remarkable it is to answer to just one person instead of having 5 different people and a city manager coming and telling them what to do every day and nothing ever getting done. We got some projects done that had been laying dormant for decades. We advocated for and we're able to get $35 million to build a port that's going to serve the offshore industry. That was because of our leadership working with the electeds in federal, state, and local government. The State Street neighborhood that's been dealing with flooding year over year. We were able to get $9.6 million because this mayor worked with our congressional delegation, Senator Reed, to get that money for our residents, to get them some relief. So when you look at our accomplishments, what we've been able to do in a short period of time, it's quite fascinating. The list would go on and on. I'd have to take up the whole time of everybody here, but it's fascinating when you look at what we've accomplished. If you go to bobdasilva.com, you'll see all that information out there.
Mr. Miller, yes.
I want to just talk about something that I see as a tremendous threat under the mayoral form, which is right now when we look at the mayor's current budget that he's proposing a 0.67% increase in our budget, while he's also projecting a $1 million growth in the baseline value of the city. That means he's actually projecting that the city will grow less under his administration than what he's projecting we're going to spend. That means our city is moving backwards, albeit slowly, but moving backwards. This is a very, very dangerous thing. And this is something that's been happening actually for a number of years. The mayor's doing a fine job, but when you take the folks who has the potential to sit down and start making the same decisions, particularly if they're looking at budget hawks. This is a very dire situation. We need to be creating value in our city, not looking at how to undermine and nickel and dime every last penny that we have.
Okay, next question. Would you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, you know, I'd first start with making sure we had a competent staff at the mayor's level. We're not hiring friends or family. I want to hire people who have expertise, who are trustworthy. We need to think about that when we think about the next mayor.
Okay, we're moving to a new question, just so we're clear. She's used 6. So we started, I said there were 6 for every candidate, and you've used all 6.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I think you did that to everybody.
Yes. Yeah.
No worries.
So the board is now accurate. We had 6 total. You've used up 6.
Okay.
So next question begins with Ms. Lopez. What are your thoughts on how the city can bolster the stability and growth of small and large businesses?
I think we need to get into a deeper partnership with small and large businesses. We have to keep them afloat in order to get our tax relief burdens out of our way. I have many small businesses coming to me and said, and they're saying to me, what do we do? I said, we need to form a united front when it comes to small business. We can do that. We can set up a task force right now, because right now we don't have one. And I think we could work with small businesses and large businesses to tackle the issue of stability. Because right now we don't have stability in any small business or a large business. And they really need to get the mayor involved and the administration involved.
Mr. Miller, same question.
So I am a small business owner. I own a few small businesses in the city, and I'm proud to participate in the revitalization of Riverside Square through those businesses. One of the things that I think is incredibly important for small business owners, access to capital. The current mechanisms that our city uses to raise capital and help assist businesses in their growth is archaic, very rarely used, and the sources of funding that it comes from are not predictable. We might have money, we give it when it's there, but it's not predictable. So one of the things I do, we looked at what Chicago is doing, which is business incremental financing. They use the new tax revenues generated from businesses to lend them out to new businesses, incrementally growing the prosperity of businesses together. This is not taking any money out of existing city funds. This is new cash flows to the city, redeploying them to continue those cash flows to grow new businesses in those very same communities. It's a very tremendously powerful tool that we can and should use in East Providence.
So DaSilva.
Yeah, we've got a great base for our community. We've brought in so many new businesses. One of the programs that we use is an economic development program where we give low interest loans, which my opponent has taken advantage of twice. We support small businesses by getting them access to capital. We recently demolished a couple of buildings that we sold the lots so that people can build single family homes. So there'd be new homeowners that can build brand new homes. The sales, a portion of that sales proceeds, we're going to put back into that fund to help small businesses. So we're working every day, whether it's changing zoning to make development easier and more effective. I think we did some of that around Riverside Square. We did that over by Taunton Avenue. So we've been doing quite a bit. By the way, real quick, I'll use a minute. Future Phone, Quick Fitting, Nexan, Zoll Medical, Feast and Federal, Fulcrum Boats, Pace All Right, all businesses that have moved into East Providence over the last 3 years. These are all businesses that have moved here, and they continue to, large and small. We've got a huge manufacturing development. It's going to be coming out. It's coming to the planning board at the next planning board meeting. You're talking about $100 and some odd $1 million investment in our community to create more manufacturing jobs. So it's exciting with all that we've done in a short period of time, and we look forward to doing more.
All right. I'm sorry, Mr. Rossi.
I was like, wow, I'm okay.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, sure. So I think streamlining the permitting process, the licensing process, a one-stop shop, I know that has been on the agenda, but never seems to come through. That's no knock on the hardworking city employees who are in charge of that. But from the people that I speak to in small business, that seems to be problematic in terms of getting everybody together to get them the right permits, to get the job done in a timely fashion. I think the other thing that needs to be addressed is tangible taxes. And it's an onion that needs to be peeled back. It's a complicated issue, but you know, we have the mayor who's touting his give back on the homestead, but the actual tax rate didn't go away. That's somewhere that revenue had to be generated, and the residential side enjoyed a tax break, but that was made up on the non-residential taxpayers.
Mr. Miller.
I'll just remind the viewers that the mayor is forecasting negative economic growth for the city. He is proposing the budget is going to go up more than the additional revenues that are to come into the city. So if we are growing as a city, why are our expenses going up more than our revenues in his own forecast? That's problematic and speaks much to the actual growth happening. In addition to my own economic loans, I tend to pride myself on my ability to navigate very bureaucratic and challenging loan applications. It's part of my success as a small business owner. There have been 14 small business loans given out in the city in the last 6 years. 14, I've received 2 of them. Anyone who thinks that that's positive growth in the city needs to check what is real growth in the city.
Okay, moving to a new question. Mr. Miller, it's going to start with you. What is your position on the protection of open space in East Providence, specifically Metacomet? Do we have an appropriate balance of active and passive recreation space in the city?
As it pertains specifically to open space in the city, I think actually we are an outlier in the amount of open space that we have. If I remember correctly, this is based upon a city council meeting last night. We have over 700 acres of open space in the city. I think the maintenance and care of that open space should be a very high priority. I know we have literally forgotten about open space that we had in the community because the city was not maintaining them, became so overgrown. I think Metacomet itself could actually be a case study for weak leadership who doesn't actually understand how to negotiate with a complex entity. The folks who administer the Marshall investments are some of the best A+ team you can possibly acquire. And we have them going up against, no offense to anyone, but the bad news bears. That's problematic. We're going to be taken advantage of. And we have been taken advantage of in that situation. We could have crafted a much better deal if we had competent negotiators sitting at the table who actually understand the terms and what the investor needs to get for the project to move forward or not move forward. Unfortunately, I don't think we have that, and that's somewhere we need to improve our game substantially.
700 acres of open space in East Providence. That's the number that we have. Additionally, the council negotiated a 9-hole open public golf course for all of the community to use. They negotiated 9.6 acres of open land at the Metacomet for the community to use. They negotiated 10% affordable housing has to be built on that property once that's developed. That's what the council negotiated. I got to credit the council majority because they stood tough on a difficult issue. They examined the issue. They realized that eminent domain was not a feasible option. It did not make financial sense. And they worked out the best possible deal for the residents. By the way, that property changed hands. Private property changed hands between the owners and the Brad Faxon group before I was ever in office. And secondly, when the next transaction occurred before the between Brad Faxon and the Marshall group, we only learned about it after the purchase and sales agreement was signed. So yes, kudos to the council on negotiating a real good deal that really puts more open space into our portfolio of open space.
Mr. Rossi.
My position's been pretty crystal clear on the Metacomet golf course. I'm a big believer in the only cure for the ills of democracy is more democracy. And I really am baffled why I don't know what the fear is to actually put that question out to the voters as a ballot question to take it over by eminent domain. I continue to hear a narrative that it's unaffordable, it's not feasible, and it's too expensive, nobody knows the number. Well, what I have here is a resolution that was submitted to his law department that actually has a number on it. It says to take it over by eminent domain, not to exceed $15 million. This went to his law department, and all of a sudden the $15 million was taken out. And then it spins a false narrative of we can't afford to do it.
Ms.
And
Lopez.
he's absolutely right, because I've got that same document. The residents feel, and I feel, that if it wasn't for KMG coming in to make sure that Marshall's backed off some of the things that we're going to do, we'd be in big trouble right now. I supported them right from the beginning because I'm an organizer. I knew what it took to organize, and they organized, okay? What bothers me is that instead of the mayor doing the right thing, it was thrown on the council's back. And the next thing you know, we've got the public and the council at their throats. I hope there is money, okay, to do something, whether it's eminent domain or that we can negotiate a better deal with Marshalls.
You have 15 more seconds if you want.
Make a negotiate a better deal with Marshalls, but I'm full support. I'm not a fair weather friend. There are people, you know, right now with candidates, they didn't agree in the beginning, but I've been there for them.
Thank you. All right. Last question of the evening. We begin with Mr. DaSilva. Would you be willing to commit to raising the city's annual contribution to schools to make it commensurate with similar sized municipalities and school districts?
Over the last few budgets that we've had the ability to navigate, we have contributed larger percentages to the schools. I think, you know, getting there all at once is difficult because if you look at our budget now, you're looking at a $9 million increase, but that includes, you know, a lot that goes to the schools. You know, $3.5 million of that budget is debt service to the brand new high school. It's not going specifically to the school department, but it's paying for a brand new high school for our students and for our schools. So we've always been supportive of the school committee budget that's come before us. And I think in one instance, we actually allocated more funds to the school department. But we also have to keep all of the needs of all of the residents and all of the community in mind when we're crafting these budgets. It's easy to say, yeah, we're going to increase you to this level, but you have to be realistic within the budget.
Mr. Rossi.
That's a hard question to answer because the budget is not transparent. You can say it's posted online all you want. I engage in negotiations all across the street, all across the state on my for my members' behalf. And I actually get to go into line item budgets and actually sit down and speak with city managers and city administrators. And I can actually go to line 3303 and the salary of X and to actually talk about that. But in this budget, I don't know. I can't give you an accurate answer to that question. I'm unable to form, you know, an opinion on it because it's convoluted. It's convoluted at best. And until I took office, I wouldn't be able to answer that question accurately. It needs to be drilled down. What is the actual spending? Where is the money hidden? $900,000 got hidden in his very first year of his administration from the schools.
Ms. Lopez.
I feel that I need to do an audit. The first thing I want to do when I'm mayor is I'm going to do a full audit of all our funds, capital funds, all the way down the line. Because I feel we never got the right numbers. I sat in council meetings for 3.5 years and we never got the right figures on what the budget should have and have not. The school systems, okay, as far as the high school, we got a wonderful high school, fantastic. But what about the rest from K to 6? Those schools need to be taken care of, up to par. They're not. I want to try to reshape the educational system so we could do as much for our students as we can in that environment.
Mr. Miller.
I think some perspective is important. If we go and look at the 2008 budget for the city, back at a time when our budget was not wholly under our control, and then we track that up to our current budget, you'll see that the expenditures that we make in our school system versus the expenditures that we're making in all other aspects of our city are trending in opposite directions. So we have been chronically under investing in our school, whereas we've been over investing in the other aspects of our government, police, fire, general administration. It's not terribly surprising because I think that our schools have a tough time having a powerful voice in that conversation. They're competing against multiple departments and they're losing that battle. I think it's worth looking at getting them back to the same level of funding that they used to have prior to the Budget Commission coming in. I think it's also interesting that Mr. Rossi can't form an opinion on the schools because I think, frankly, it's just because it's not an important issue for him. If it was, he might have been at the budget hearing last night in City Council, attending these meetings and actually participating in the process of forming the budget is enlightening.
Mr. Rossi.
I take exception with my lack of interest in the school. I'm giving you an accurate answer to the question that was asked. And me not having a lack of interest in school, I have a granddaughter who has Down syndrome. I have a grandson who has special needs. I am very, very interested in schools and getting quality education. I am a product of the East Providence school system. And my success is based on the education that I received courtesy of the people who lived in this city. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our question and answer period. We are moving to closing statements. You'll have a minute of time plus any unused wildcard time. Mr. Miller, we're going to start with you. You have a minute and a half for your closing statement.
All right. So I am an outlier in many senses of this word, both by my level of education, my level of experience in business, and frankly, my blunt manner of communicating with folks. I think those qualifications will make me an excellent candidate to be our mayor and lead the city forward in an unbiased manner. When you look at the folks here at the table with me, they all share one thing in common, and that is that they all supported our current mayor in his last campaign. What we're seeing is, unfortunately, three people who have a very similar vision for the city, and I admire the fact that they care about advancing our city forward, but we need a new vision for East Providence. We need a vision of East Providence that empowers people to be active in creating value for their families in this community. And these folks do not have the background to actually execute that. Those are the things that I've been executing for the last 10 years, pushing and growing my businesses through a pandemic, employing 20 people, not having a single friend or family in this community, because I build teams that empower people to do what they believe in, and that's build for themselves and build for their families. I can do those same things as our mayor. I can build a strong team of independent thinkers that can be held accountable to results, financial results. And those are the only results that matter, because when you create financial value, you create opportunities for us to do all the meaningful work that we can do as a city. We're constantly backpedaling, trying to cut money here, cut money there. We're on the defensive, and we need to attack for families. We need to attack for East Providence.
Thank you. Mr. DaSilva, you have up to 2 minutes.
Well, thank you. I just want to say that we have done a lot in 3.5 years, and we've led the city through really a worldwide pandemic successfully. We've seen commercial development. We've seen businesses coming in. We've seen revised zoning that has generated a burst of new small businesses, especially restaurants like Roti Hen, Rosa's Cafe, the local Ibisu. These are all things that we've done to help small businesses. Infrastructure investment in the water, sewer, roads, sidewalks, that's all happening during our administration. Investment in our parks, Pierce Field, Little League Field Lights, Grassy Plains Field, Riverside Square, Riverside Rec Field. There's so much going on throughout the city that we've done. Now let's talk about projects that have been laying dormant for decades. You know, the South Key Port Terminal is going to be huge for offshore wind development, for jobs here in our community, for increasing the tax base. The Ocean State Steel Mill project, that's getting ready to close probably later this month, where we're going to see more affordable housing built on that property. You've got the Platte Waters buildings that we were able to turn into 8 single-family homes and 3 affordable housing duplexes. So we've done a lot. By the way, transparency, we've been super transparent. Our budget is online at OpenGov. We've been made a case study on how transparent we are through the people at OpenGov. If you can't read a budget, and if you don't know that there's an independent audit hired by the council every year, that's not my fault. It's out there for everyone to see. There's nothing hidden. It's so, you know, when you come in here and you're saying, and this is the thing about politics, people can say whatever they want. they can make up their stories, they can make up their facts, they can come out at you with all misinformation. And they want to do that because they want to gain an edge. Because the reality is we have delivered for East Providence residents. I ask for your vote. I ask for your continued support. And I believe that you've heard who the best candidate is to be the mayor of the city of East Providence. And I hope that you believe that that's me. Thank you.
Mr. Rossi, you have up to 2.5 minutes.
Thank you very much. So tonight you've heard from candidates for mayor, each candidate for mayor, and each candidate offered different points of view, what they feel is most important to the people of this city. To me, the most important things are unifying the city and making it a more affordable place to live and raise a family. You will always be welcome to walk into my office on the first floor of City Hall. I will not be separated by a wall of glass from the people I work for, you, the residents of this great city. We will end the money grab of speed cameras. We will hold a special election to allow the people of this city to decide the fate of Metacomet. We will create maintenance plans for city assets. I will work with all 5 council members to ensure the city's business gets done the way you want it done. I am grateful for the overwhelming support I have received from the community during my campaign. I am quite proud of the endorsement I've received from who I believe 2 of the hardest working council people on the city council, Anna Souza and Ricardo Morato. I want to make this place a city to be proud of again. If you share my vision, I'd appreciate your vote on September 13th in the primary. I know I do have more time, so I'm going to take up some time. The mayor, we've been told tonight that there is an audit done of the city every year. I think that once again is inaccurate. I would like to know when the last audit was done, because to the best of my knowledge, it wasn't done last year. And he's right. In the city audit lies the money. I know that. I've read the audits for other communities in helping me prepare to represent my members. I will work hard every day to not have this city be a reality TV show that it has become through social media platforms. Governing is hard work. I have been a hard worker my whole life, and I continue to plan to be a hard worker for the residents of this city. Thank you very much.
Ms. Lopez, you have a minute.
I will bring trust and communication back to our city government. I'm going to sound the alarm. We cannot afford to have incompetent individuals, okay, in our executive office. The primary is on September 13th. We will be determining who gets to move the city forward. I am ready to build a better, stronger, and resilient East Providence. With my leadership, together with the residents of East Providence, we can move East Providence into a better future. I believe we must help young families struggling to make ends meet. We have to develop it. We have to develop smarter when we build. I believe in green space protection. I want to build a strong.
15 more seconds.
I want to build a strong partnership with the small and large business. Very important.
Okay, that concludes the forum. Thank you all for participating. Susan, you want to have a couple of comments before?
Yes, I just want to say thank you to all the candidates. It's so wonderful to have the chance to see you and hear you together and be able to contrast your views on it. It's been an exciting evening. We will have this forum, a tape of it up online, which you can reach at our website. I hope you can read this. LWVRI.org.
That is a mouthful.
It'll be open tomorrow. And remember that we will be having general election primaries also. So look for the news of those in the East Bay newspapers when the time comes. And we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.